2 explosions, 3 dead, hundreds injured, and the suspects were still in the crowd. What began as a celebration of endurance and triumph would become one of the most shocking terrorist attacks in modern American history. Everyone remembers the day when Dzhokhar Tsarnaev crossed into infamy, not as a runner, but as a suspect in one of the most brazen terrorist attacks on American soil. It was April 15, 2013, Patriots' Day in Boston, a festival of tradition and endurance. At 2:49 p.m., 2 improvised pressure cooker bombs hidden in duffel bags near the marathon finish line detonated within seconds of one another. The blast ripped through a crowd of spectators and athletes, killing 3 people, including an 8-year-old boy, Martin Richard, and injuring more than 260 others, many of whom would never fully recover. What followed was a 4-day unraveling of a conspiracy both crude and coldly deliberate. Surveillance cameras and cell phone footage captured 2 men moving through the crush, planting backpacks, then walking away. Within days, law enforcement identified the suspects, brothers Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, ethnic Chechens who had lived in Cambridge and later in the Boston suburbs. The picture that emerged combined ordinary American lives with a lethal radicalization. The conspiracy was not a shadowy international plot so much as a homegrown, hands-on operation. The brothers built bombs from pressure cookers, black powder, ball bearings and shrapnel. Low-tech devices designed to maximize injury in a crowded space. Investigators reconstructed chats, travel histories and online searches that showed the brothers' growing fixation on extremist ideology and violent martyrdom. Tamerlan, the older brother, had traveled to the Russian Caucasus in 2012 and come back changed. US officials later acknowledged they had briefly investigated him in 2011, but closed their inquiry without further action. That pause would haunt post-attack reviews. The attack was only the opening chapter. 3 days later, the Tsarnaevs escalated the violence. In the early hours of April 18th to 19th, they allegedly shot and killed MIT campus police officer Sean Collier as he sat in his patrol car. A chaotic manhunt unfolded, carjackings, road ambushes, and a violent firefight in Watertown. During the confrontation, Tamerlan was critically wounded and died after a stint in custody. Dzhokhar escaped, bleeding and hunted until dawn, when a Watertown resident, alerted by a police neighborhood sweep, noticed a tarp-covered boat in his backyard. Inside, hiding among tarps and bullet holes, officers found Dzhokhar, alive and wounded. As the nation held its breath, the legal machinery moved forward. In the federal prosecution that followed, evidence from cell phones, the brothers' digital footprint, and forensic reconstruction tied Dzhokhar directly to the bombings. In 2015, a federal jury convicted him on 30 counts, including use of a weapon of mass destruction resulting in death. He was sentenced to death, or the rarest of federal penalties, and remains the subject of protracted appeals and debate. This was a conspiracy of motive and means. The Tsarnaevs' motive drew from extremist rhetoric and a desire to respond to US foreign policy in Chechnya and beyond. The means were the mechanical brutality of pressure cooker devices, a public spectacle chosen to instill terror. At the same time, the case exposed institutional blind spots. How an initial assessment of Tamerlan in 2011 failed to yield more intrusive scrutiny, how community signals went unconnected, and how a modern attack could be planned with little money and widely available materials. Boston's response, immediate, resilient, and defiant, became part of the story. Hospitals marshaled trauma teams, strangers aided the wounded. The slogan "Boston Strong" captured a city's refusal to be cowed. Yet the bombing also forced uncomfortable questions about surveillance, civil liberties, and the limits of prevention. A decade later, the bombings remain a sharp lesson in the modern landscape of domestic terror. Small cells, easy access to instructions online, and the power of sudden violence to fracture communities. The conspiracy was not an impenetrable cabal, but a lethal convergence of ideology, opportunity, and overlooked warning signs. A reminder that prevention often depends on the fragile work of connecting dots before they become disasters.